Bev again with another video, and this one is on stretching. Now, as a certified personal trainer and as a certified ski instructor, you might be really surprised to hear that I never stretch. I never, skiing, maybe I hurl myself down a blue run instead of a black run to loosen up a bit, but I don't stretch. And before I lift weights, I never stretch, okay? So, why? Well, first of all, let me say, if I categorize stretching, I would put it into three categories. Dynamic stretching, which involves, movement of joints, right? Jumping jacks, running on a treadmill, whatever. You're moving joints, box jumps, whatever. Static stretching has no movement. You see those people, they're stretching, and stretching their hamstrings and whatever. That involves no joint movement, right? And then there is something we call hyperbolic or hyper stretching, and that is an exaggerated stretch. Okay, so stretches can fall into any of those three, but why don't I ever stretch? And I'm going to talk about this in terms of two things: weightlifting and stretch reflex, okay? So when I'm lifting weights, I am contracting or shortening the muscles that I'm working on and extending and lengthening the muscles. So if that isn't stretching, I don't know what the hell is, right? So for example, here is my bicep. So when I curl up, you can see that the bicep gets a lot shorter and then it lengthens. So it's contracting or shortening, lengthening or extending. So that's kind of stretching, right? But what I would say is, if you insist on stretching, then do dynamic stretching before you exercise. And if you insist on stretching after your exercise, do static stretching. And the reason I say that is this is kind of a warm-up, right? Your body is doing something naturally, jumping or whatever. In static stretching, you're trying to stretch out or lengthen those muscles as far as you can. Only stretch the muscles that you worked on that day. So if you're doing bicep curls, you can stretch your biceps. If you're doing delt exercises, sure, stretch your delts. But why don't I do it? I don't really want to weaken my muscles before I lift weights, because I want to be able to lift heavier weights. I don't want to have weak muscles when I go to hit the weights. So my analogy would be an elastic band. If you pull an elastic band out as far as you can, when you let go, it never returns to the original shape, at least not at the outset. And it's kind of an odd analogy for muscles, right? But if I do that to my muscles, stretch them out, I'm going to make them weaker, and I'm not going to be able to lift as much weight for as many repetitions. And I don't want that. I want to build up muscle mass. Now, if we get into the stretch reflex, this occurs when you hyperstretch. So when you hyperstretch, your body will eventually want to resist. And that's called a stretch reflex, because your body's job is to save you. Whatever you do, it wants to save you. And if you're stretching out with these static stretches so that you feel uncomfortable, or some people feel pain, then you're going to run into this stretch reflex by your body. Now, some people think, hyperstretching is great. It's what you should do. You should feel uncomfortable. You should feel pain. You should go as far as you want. No, I don't want to make my body defend itself. It does that because it wants to prevent serious damage to your muscles, to your tendons, and even to your joints. And so it softens its protective response. Now you might wonder, well, what is this reflex? What does it do? Well, when you're stretching out as far as you can, and you get into this hyper stuff, even though you're trying to pull that muscle as far as you can extend, your body is trying to contract it to protect its connective tissues. So it's trying to shorten it, and you're trying to lengthen it. So I would say never go beyond anything that feels uncomfortable in terms of muscle tension. Anyway, I never stretch. I don't have a problem. You know, if I go down the hill skiing, I might, as I say, go down an easier run for the first run. And if I'm working out, if I want to, you know, warm up, then I might do a set with slightly lower weights at the beginning. Like if I want to do 3 sets at my own weight, I might do 1 set of less weight just to warm up and then do 3 sets. Anyway, I don't do any of the static stretching. And in fact, I don't even do dynamic stretching, and I would never do hyperbolic. Anyway, I hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.